I'm Mike Boyd, Boyd Group International, and welcome to Aviation Unscripted. We appreciate your time. For those of you who attended the International Aviation Forecast Summit last year, that lead-in might have been a little bit familiar. We used it this time to illuminate the fact that everything we know about air transportation has changed over the last 40 years, including the veracity, the use of air transportation. And I wanted to sort of touch on that today, that I have to question whether we really recognize the value of our global leading airport system. We hear people talk about how, we haven't built an airport in X years. I didn't know that was a metric, building airports. But our air transportation system and our airport system is world leading. We have the best system in the world, and it's one postured for the future of logistics, for the future of communication, for the new demographics that are taking place post-pandemic. We've got an incredible opportunity here. What I wanted to get to here is, too often, the value of an airport is only measured by whether or not it has a scheduled passenger service. And if it doesn't have that, the community gets upset. We need to modify that view. It's great to have civic hubris. Great, it drives America. But we've got to recognize realities. Take a look at this chart here. These are major commuter markets, and we compared it the year 2000 to 2019. Take a look at the decline. What that means is, for communication purposes, mostly business travel, these markets aren't as important to airlines as they once were because there's other channels of communication. There's other modalities to get the payroll across. There's other modalities to have meetings, and we know that now more than ever. It's the same thing with small airports. Very often, you just can't support scheduled passenger service at an airport. And some that had it once, it just isn't going to come back. And I think what we need to recognize is that's an opportunity. When we work with airports, we look at every aspect of it, inside the fence, outside the fence, aeronautical uses, non-aeronautical uses. How do you match that to the future? I want to say, it wasn't too long ago, a while back, I got a call from a client who said that the state was entertaining, studying, and implementing. Interesting way of putting it. We'll study it, then we'll implement it. Intrastate air transportation between small communities using small airplanes. It takes 4 hours to drive across our beautiful state to get A to B. A flight would be 50 minutes, therefore there's going to be a saving. That's the thinking, which is pretty warped, because there's more to travel than just A to B. It's the other ends. I said, sure, we'll listen to the roundtable. We'll log in. And there were 4 consultants making dire proposals to do this. Every one of them, quite accurately, I believe, said that they had already done this. They had actually set these kinds of operations up. But a sentence later, a 10-second sentence later, or somewhere down the line, it came out that and it didn't work. Of course it didn't work, because it's not a viable communication channel anymore. Take a look at these airlines. These are commuter airlines, a couple of them. Those of you who remember Aeromec, Social Security is paying off, I hope. But those things worked. These little markets did have air service. They don't have it today because there's no demand based upon new communication channels and the cost of providing it. It's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. Yet we're trying, in many cases, to recreate this. Those airlines don't exist. There is no independent, turf-owned regional airline system anymore. It doesn't exist. Now, the kind of regional airlines we have are really, in my mind, very good operators like Southern Airways Express or Boutique or Contour. But they don't have their own turf, per se. They operate markets where they think they can make money, or there was a subsidy. Thank God we had them, because if they weren't here, there's a lot of small airports on EAS that wouldn't have any flights at all. But they don't fill necessarily the same need that we had at all 40 years ago. But we're trying to recreate that. I wanted to also say we got an RFP, or a discussion, from a small community. Maybe 30,000 people. We've worked with them before on various things. And they wanted us to do a study, or respond to an RFP to do a study for attracting an airline. And I pointed out to them, number one, you're 2 hours from an airport that has 80 flights a day, and 2 flights at the local airport won't work, or 3 won't work. People won't use them. They're just not convenient enough. And also, with only 30, 35,000 local people, it's going to be very hard to have enough traffic anywhere. And they were appreciative of that. And they said, well, I'll send you the RFP. So they sent me the RFP to others as well, I'm sure. And whoever put this RFP together really needs an ethics lesson, because it was an RFP that didn't even apply to this little airport. It had one of the requirements was to identify the top 10 routes out of that airport. It's 30,000 population, no air service currently. And for each route, the top 3 airlines that need to be marketed or approached to operate the route. I was just flabbergasted. Not with the community, because they don't know this, but that anybody would feed them that. And worse, anybody would respond to it. But that's what we're up against. And that's why we have to start looking at what America needs to do to remain connected to the rest of the world. It's called communication connectivity, not just necessarily air service connectivity. That's a part of it. But there are communities in America where it's a lot more than 2 hours to get to scheduled service. And when you get there, it's another small airport that has 4 flights a day. That's not going to change. I'd love to say it will change. I'd love to say we'll find a solution to it. But it's not going to change. So how do we find other communication modalities to keep those kinds of communities connected to the rest of the world? That's something that we're going to have to address. In addition to that, one of the things we work with is how do we address the issue of capitalizing on America's number one asset, which I believe is our airport system that we've built. You know, an airport is more than just a passenger terminal if you have one. For example, airports are great places to put businesses. And I'll point out some businesses that are out there. For example, we do have small electric aircraft that are coming out. I'm not a big fan of battery power as it stands now. I think there are social issues with it, there are ecological issues with it, and there are security issues with battery power. But in many ways, it's going to be coming at the lower end of the GA stream. And how do we address that? How many mechanics out there can work on an electric airplane engine? How many mechanics are out there trained to work on a battery-powered anything? But we're going to need them. And communities that look ahead and say, we're going to attract companies that do this. It doesn't have to be in New York City. It could be in Chadron, Nebraska. It could be in Ocala, Florida. It could be in places that really can't support scheduled passenger service, but could support a business like that because no one else is doing it. It's huge. I won't get into this, but there's going to be, I firmly believe, a reshoring of a lot of work from China. I mean, these are very, very bad people over there who are running China, not the Chinese people, but the people running it. And there's going to be businesses that are going to start to reshore outside of China. Airports are great places for economic development. And we work with airports and looking at how we can attract those kinds of things. That's the future. It's not a future of having scheduled passenger service that can't be supported. I mean, I understand this. I understand that people want it, but I don't understand why people won't look beyond it. I don't understand why people get fed bills of goods on, we'll find it for you. I mean, saw one small community a couple of years ago that said, we want scheduled service and we don't care where it goes. Isn't that similar to saying we want a sewer system and we don't care where it goes? That doesn't work. What you want to do is be able to be competitive for business with the rest of the world. And if you can't support air service, what are the other communication options there? And that's what we work with airports on, is, looking into the future, not looking into the past and trying to recreate it. There are opportunities out there. We see huge opportunities with logistics. That 737 could come in and be the distribution center in the future and leave, come in 3 nights a week, be the distribution center for the region, or it could be an ATR 42. Whatever it is, that's the sort of opportunities out there. Other new technologies. An airport does not necessarily have to be JFK to attract business. As a matter of fact, I would maintain that, Kirksville, Missouri has a lot of economic advantages over attracting a business compared to JFK International. We have to look at those sorts of things. The reason I bring this up is that At some point in time, this kabuki theater of we'll do another market study, another leakage study, we'll have outreach, it's going to die out. It has to, because there aren't any airlines out there to fill many of those. But those other opportunities are huge. And that's what, if you're a small community and you want to look to how to maximize the value of your airport, and it's there, the economic impact can be huge, give us a call. That's what we do. We work with airports to find the future. Air service is part of it. Economic development is another part of it. FBOs is another part of it, because FBOs are going to have to change as we get new technology aircraft coming online. Remember, they're out after 100 low-lead again. What is that going to mean? Those are the sorts of things that we work with. And we don't ever mislead a client into thinking you can get air service when we know out of the box it's not going to happen. I mean, it's very similar to getting an RFP. It says, from some place in Arizona, it says, make us a deep water seaport. Some of these proposals are just as ridiculous. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. Look, if you'd like to work with us on issues like this, give us a call. We're at the forefront of it, and we'd like to talk to you because we can learn too, and we've got a good set of resources that we can apply for you. In addition to that, if you like this channel, subscribe. Let us know. If you don't like what we're saying, please let us know. If you disagree, please let us know. If you agree, let us know too. We'd love to hear that as well. It does wonders for our ego. But in the meantime, we'd like to ask you to, always think of the future. What does it mean to the future? And if you need help with that, give us a call here at Boyd Group International. Well, we'll talk next week. I want to thank you for your time.